Good morning. I guess we can go ahead and get started on our section. I won't go over the whole regional plan series because that was handled by Paul. I'll just remind, first of all, I wanted to introduce some of the regional planning staff. I have Valerie Ramos here on my left, Ludi Saenz, and Gabby, and Brenda over there. Brenda will be handling the mic in case anyone has any questions. And Ludi will be making any changes. And Val will be helping me with the presentation. I will just briefly state that the LRGVDC Lower Rio Grande Valley strategical plan is coordinated by the Development Council, but it's not our plan, it's you all's plan. So any input that you provide here will be incorporated into the plan. We have we've had two meetings yesterday and today. We'll have the final meeting August the 6th, and it's going to be here. It's all day from 9 to 2, I believe. All departments will be here, so if there's any questions, if there's any things you didn't understand, a director from each department should be at that meeting. Today we'll just be handling, this session will have the environmental resources and the housing. This morning we had Paul review the police academy session. And yesterday's session included 911, Homeland Security, and Area Agency on Aging, and EDA. So I'll go ahead and get started with our environmental section. Does anyone have any questions on the strategic plan or the trends or anything that's listed prior to our environmental session? Okay, then I'll just briefly go over the environmental goals and then the accomplishments, and then Brenda will review each goal and strategy. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask, or if there's any additions also. The environmental goals that we have listed are to conserve and protect the region's natural resources while planning for orderly growth. That's air, water, land, and wildlife and minerals. Improve the system of waste reduction, recycling, and disposal of sewage, solid waste, brush, and hazardous material. Increase and conserve the supply of raw and treated water and eliminate water and environmental pollutants problems. Improve flood control drainage and improve water quality and water quantity. Some of the accomplishments that we've listed here, and if there's any others, please feel free to give them to us so we can add them, because these are accomplishments not just by the COG but for the region. The region's recycling rate has increased. I have here 20%. I hope it's a little bit more. I think it is. Recycling centers have been established and are operating because of TCEQ and LRGVDC funding available. Community awareness on environmental issues such as water quality and water quantity issues. And the region has also used CDBG disaster recovery funds to provide long-term flood drainage to protect and restore communities and continue to create stable, secure environments for individuals and families. I have a map on that shows the projects that were yes, that one. That the committee all agreed on. 10, I believe 10 of those projects were funded through this disaster recovery. And just so you can see where the projects are at. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? Okay, Brenda's going to go over each one of the goals.
Okay, the first goal is conserve and protect the region's natural resources while planning for orderly growth. The objective is encourage innovative projects which promote sustainable development. The strategies for this goal is to disseminate information on the economic benefits of establishing sustainable development projects, support implementation of smart growth ordinances and other regulations that preserve open space and agriculture, involve community leaders to the greatest extent as possible, and promote use of other energy resources. Does anybody have any comments or changes on this section? Okay, let's go on to the next goal. To improve the system of waste reduction, recycling, and disposal of sewage, solid waste, brush, and hazardous materials, and develop responsible practices. The objective is to update and implement regional solid waste management plan. The strategies are as follows: promote public education to reduce illegal dumping, increase enforcement, and conduct cleanups, increase and expand recycling programs and promote waste reduction and reuse, develop programs for household hazardous waste, support regional recycling initiatives and alliances to promote recycling initiatives and alliances for this program, and develop more programs to address this goal. Does anyone here have any comments or changes? Yes, ma'am?
The colonias in Hidalgo County do not have garbage collection. And I understand that the county wants to close down its landfills and go to privatized, which means it's going to cost people a lot of money, which means generally, as even happens now, the solid waste goes in the drainage canals, which means when we have a hurricane or we have a water event, they can't do their job. So what can be done? What can be done to incorporate in part of the strategy to figure that out for Hidalgo County? I know Cameron County has garbage collection in the colonias, but we don't have it here. Are we in Hidalgo? We are in.
We can add a goal or a strategy to this goal that addresses that issue for Hidalgo County, like
For the areas, the unincorporated areas of the county.
the landfills that you're talking about. Is that the one in Benitez? That's the only
I
that's
just
the only
know-
county landfill. The others are privately owned, which is Edinburgh and the other one, Donna.
Let's say that they weren't going to make any changes in the landfills. I know still getting rid of solid waste is a challenge for people who live in the colonias. And they don't have garbage collection. Which I have to share a little story. When we were doing our neighborhood at Net Couch, we had a little girl who lived in a dilapidated mobile home in one of the colonias. When we did our design charrette and asked what would you like to see in your new neighborhood, her wish was to have garbage cans so she could recycle like she was being taught at school. So recycling also doesn't hit the colonias if we don't have collection.
And
So
that
I would like to see a goal or a strategy that would work towards including that for colonial residents.
Okay. We can include it as a strategy under that particular goal.
The next goal is to increase and conserve the supply of raw and treated water and eliminate water and environmental pollution problems. The objective is to maintain and implement regional water supply plan. The strategies are as follows: update regional water supply plan, support implementation of regional water supply plan, encourage public participation, and seek federal, legislative, and state support for the implementation of the plan. Does anybody have comments and changes on this? Yes, ma'am?
I'm with the Equal Voice Network, and last year we brought together the different water supply companies, and I was shocked to find out that they are so far behind They talk about having still spaghetti pipes. I know a lot of the cities have very old tile pipes that are breaking all the time. It just seems to me that to maintain and implement regional water supply plan, the maintenance is the big one right now. And also the shortage of water, we need to be, I think, much more aggressive in our approach to desalinization or other means of recovering gray water that we can use for drinking water. I just think water is going to be a major issue. But I was shocked to hear how outdated the delivery of water is from most water supply corporations and cities. I don't know if that makes sense.
So your strategy would be to upgrade,
Have a plan how to upgrade. It's real easy to say we want to maintain water supply. But what are we going to be able to do when those pipes are just falling apart all over the place? Plus the fact they can't move to a better technology where you have meters that you don't have to have someone go there and read it. It would be computerized. They can't do that because of the spaghetti pipes.
okay.
I have one more too after that, looking at.
There is collaboration now between the state and the locals and the IBWC. But the IBWC does not have the money in their budget because they fall under the State Department. And I think that part of the plan for maintaining and implementing regional water supply, that we need to really make an all-out effort, our elected officials do, to support more money going into the budget for IBWC. Right now, their budget is $10 million for the whole southern border, and we have dams that are really in need of repair. We know about the levees, or we work with the levees, but we need, I would like to see our elected officials make an all-out effort with Congress to put more money in the IBWC budget.
Thank you. The next goal is to improve flood control drainage. The objective is coordinate drainage flood control programs throughout the region and increase enforcement of limiting construction in flood-prone areas. The strategies are as follows. Support the maintenance of the EDA, Regional Economic Adjustment Plan for building disaster resilient communities for flood control. Encourage establishment of a regional task force to address flood control and drainage issues. Support coordination of county flood control activities for the region. Update FEMA maps. Support federal funding opportunities to rehabilitate levees under the U.S. IBWC jurisdiction. Include colonias in the discussion of needed drainage. Develop a clearinghouse for all drainage projects being conducted in the region so we can clearly see where work is being done and where work needs to be done. Work towards drainage codes in all cities where retention ponds and other non-engineered drainage solutions are developed by cities. Does anyone have any comments or changes? Yes, ma'am?
I just really support the next to the last dot, develop a clearinghouse for all drainage projects. We actually, I think, did we give this to you 2 years ago? Would it be possible? Where did that come from?
I think so too.
Okay. We would really like to see something similar to the NPO for drainage projects.
We
So-
tried with our economic development plan, remember, we tried to establish a committee. I didn't fall
Yeah, I think if we can try that again and just keep going till we can get that clearinghouse, because it's really hard, I know. In Hidalgo County, we only have one drainage district, but we can't keep up with all those projects either. I don't know what it's like in Cameron County. And I also think that even with the EDA plan, it really wasn't regional. Hidalgo County submitted their projects, Cameron County submitted their projects, they put it together and said this is a regional plan. I don't think there was much communication between Hidalgo County and Cameron County on how we can work together on some of that, and especially for Hidalgo County, because we have to go through Cameron and Willacy to get the water to the Gulf. So, anyway, I really, if we could have some sort of an MPO for drainage, and Equal Voice will be glad to work with you on that if you need that.
Okay, thank you. The last but not least goal is to improve water quality. The objective is to improve the awareness and understanding of water quality issues. The strategies are to coordinate efforts to develop and research education and outreach material, increase education and outreach activities to improve public awareness. Does anyone have any comments or changes on this part? Okay, well, that's it. Housing is next.
Not yet, no. Okay. I just wanted to remind you also that if there's any additional strategies or goals or changes that you think of after you leave this session, you can also send them to us via email or fax or whatever is easier. And like I said at the beginning, there will be another meeting August the 6th to provide additional input on any and all of these sessions. Is there any other questions on environmental or additions or no? If there's none, then I'll go ahead and proceed with the housing and shelter session. And Gabby will be going over this one, but I just wanted to read the major goals that are included in this session. Provide available, decent, and adequate housing for Valley residents, provide adequate and affordable housing for elderly and individuals with special needs, provide adequate and accessible emergency shelter, and promote fair housing. These are the four major goals that are included in this section. Some of the accomplishments that have been done through the COG are the regional needs assessment in coordination with the Round 2 housing guidelines. We've also developed the FAST form in accordance with the state analysis of impediments. And I believe that FAST form is, has been updated, right, Gabby? And we're in the process of sending it out to the original FAST form committee to review. We've updated it. We've addressed some of the impediments that we said we were going to address. Every year, the board of director approves and passes a resolution on fair housing. Development of printed material to promote fair housing. Promotion of fair housing awareness by distributing information and printed material throughout the Tri-County region. We've also developed a Section 3 plan, and that's for the LRGVDC, and that's also on our website under disaster recovery funding, if anyone wants to review it and see what's included in that plan. Along with that plan, we have a Section 3 advisory committee that was established. We also have a list of local Section 3 certified subcontractors. It's all on our website. And with this disaster recovery funding that we got, we have an estimated about 800 applicants within the three-county region that will have their homes either reconstructed or rehabilitated. And can you put a picture? And we have a picture of some of the homes that have been, the homes. I think it's the next slide. These are pictures of some of the homes that have been completed by different contractors that we've had working on these homes. We also have a slide of current construction in the back. This is where the construction is being held as of today. Like I said, we will have about 800 homes when we're all done. We have, as of today, we have about 278 that are under construction. And this is reconstruction. We also have a map of the ones that are being rehabbed, and this is where those are. And we also have a map of the applicants that have decided to move out of the area where they live and purchase a new home that's already in the market, and this is where the homes are at. We also have about, I believe it's 4 or 5 entities that will be receiving multifamily funding, right, Kathy? Within the three-county region. The 3 that are already in the process is San Benito, FAR, and Willacy County. Is there any questions on some of the accomplishments or any additions on any accomplishments? This is not just LRGVDC accomplishments, but it's also accomplishments throughout the region that we can add to this section. And then Gabby will go over each one of the goals with you, and if you have any changes or additions to the goals, please feel free to provide the input.
Okay. One of the goals is to provide available, decent, and adequate housing for Valley residents. The objective is to assure adequate and affordable housing opportunities for families in the Valley. And the strategies to achieve this would be promote efforts to reduce the number of substandard and dilapidated dwellings, partner with homeless shelters and assist with financial assistance for shelter beds, encourage Valley communities to establish housing programs for families in need, develop support services to maintain individuals and families in their homes, assist partners in developing and offering support services and resources, empowering Valley residents with information to prevent foreclosures, create a system of transitional housing units, provide workshops on home ownerships, increase the region's 24-hour emergency shelter facilities, establish a caseworker network, expand information and referral services, encourage additional eviction counseling, predatory lending education, and home buyer education programs, support the local housing authorities with a number of rehabilitated homes over the next 2 years, expansion of availability of credit counseling, create or work towards regional building codes that are the same across the region, include weather sustainable construction as well as energy efficient construction beyond what the latest codes call for, support UTPA efforts on research of the housing stock in the region, development of appropriate mortgage products readily available in the region, increase education opportunities in skilled trades for construction workers, and standardize or create a uniform code enforcement mechanism. Any suggestion changes?
I'm sure glad I came on. You probably are glad enough I came. I wanted to put a star next to the strategy, create or work toward regional building codes that are the same across the region. The consortium is working on that, But it became very clear when we started the hurricane disaster recovery that that was an issue. It really was an impediment in getting houses built quickly because every little city and every town and big city had different building codes. So I really hope that one is put in bold or something because we really do need that. Also, the very last one, standardized or create uniform code enforcement mechanism. This is kind of related to NIMBYism, not in my backyard, and we discovered that a lot of cities are changing their uniform development code to keep low-income people out. I won't mention the small city in Hidalgo County, but like you can't build a home there now under 2,500 square feet. That's a subtle way of keeping out low-income people. I had no problem sharing saying that we read about what happened with the McAllen Housing Authority, and people in North McAllen, the city commissioner, not wanting that affordable housing unit to go in North McAllen. So I would like to see a strategy that we would also continue to work with NIMBYism, not in my backyard, to make sure that we have healthy, sustainable communities, which means they're of mixed income. And we're not creating blight by putting all low-income people together. Because essentially, when cities do that, people end up going to the colonias because that's the only place where they can find affordable housing, even though they're working in the cities, helping maintain buildings and parks and golf courses and all that, but they can't live there. Which brings up another issue that I don't see on here, and this is the big challenge we have in rental properties in the colonias as well. And there needs to be some type of guideline. We haven't been able to get code enforcement for the border counties. We've tried 3 times with the legislature, it just doesn't happen. But there needs to be some kind of enforcement on people who rent a home, because there's a lot of predatory renting that's taking place there. And again, people don't have a choice. And so we know we need to be careful what we pray for because it may come true, but where will people go if there's not these substandard housing units? And my last one is, I would hope it's a strategy that the COG board especially could work towards developing a housing trust fund. For those of us who are in the nonprofit housing business, the money is low, Congress has cut back rural housing budgets, but if we could develop a housing trust fund. I hear hints of that, Marcy, as people are talking about, the hurricane disaster. We know that let's keep the list of people who don't get served because maybe we can get some money for a housing trust fund and continue to do that as a COG. I think that would be wonderful.
Do you want to list, well, since you said the building code is such an important issue, do you want still that as a strategy, or do you want it maybe as a goal and list some strategies on how
Well,
to do that?
it would be good as a goal and again, the consortium is working on that, but the light bulb didn't go off on a lot of the elected officials until we started the hurricane disaster.
Right.
Why do we need uniform codes from city to city? I leave that up to your judgment. I've never figured out goals and objective strategies, so
Okay.
we just need to do it. And NIMBYism actually is part of fair housing too, but I think we need to talk about, or it needs to be said here that a lot of our communities don't want low-income people living there, and we need to work against that. I know the McAllen meeting, I was really struck, a little girl, she looked like she was 10 years old, and she stood up at the meeting and she had a sign that said, I live in a low-income family, I am a nice person. And besides the whole issue of not in my backyard, I just wondered when we be teaching children of low-income families about what it means to be considered really.
I believe the gentleman in the back had a question.
Yeah, another one thing I wanted to see the possibility of strategy was there's been times when we've had individuals that have had things. As I was saying,
No,
Push
you
it up.
gotta turn it on. Push it up.
Okay. As I was mentioning was that we've had situations before where individuals or families' homes were being reconstructed and they've been misplaced. Possible strategy would be to find something, some resources for the families that whose homes are being reconstructed through the programs. Possible resources to temporarily house them. We've had several instances where individuals didn't have anywhere to go, and since there is no emergency shelters or any emergency housing for them, someone that have anywhere to locate temporarily.
Any other suggestions, questions? Nope. All right, we'll move on to the next goal, which is to provide adequate and affordable housing for the elderly and individuals with special needs. The objective is to assure adequate and affordable housing opportunities for the elderly and individuals with special needs. Strategies to accomplish this listed are promote development of affordable housing facilities for the elderly and citizens with special needs. Okay. Promote educational awareness of housing needs for individuals with special needs. Partner with housing providers and local communities to assist with the rehab expenditures of the subsidized rental housing units which serve these senior citizens communities. Enable partners to provide vouchers to reduce the cost of rent as an emergency financial assistance for the elderly and individuals with special needs. Partner with cities to meet all housing needs with the land development in the area. Provide financial assistance in form of vouchers to partners for opportunities to assist the elderly, disabled, veterans, and their families with their utilities. Support nonprofits with technical assistance, with training and financial support to increase the capacity to provide resources for exploring housing options. Provide people with disabilities and the elderly in the Tri-County area with opportunity to improve their home with modifications such as building a ramp, installing grab bars, widening doors, and more. Any suggestions, changes, questions regarding those goals, strategies, and objectives? All right. We'll move on to the next goal, which is to provide adequate and accessible emergency shelter. Objective is to assure emergency shelter availability. Strategies are to promote the development of an emergency shelter for children ages 0 through 17, specifically for teen moms. Provide emergency shelter during disaster declarations and unforeseen issues. Encourage existing agencies to maintain communications with Texas Homeless Network. Support community efforts for the renovation and rehabilitation of existing homeless shelters. Encourage agencies to establish a strong, proactive continuum of care to develop and coordinate the implementation of strategic homeless plan and provide a process for responding to new needs of the homeless. Provide technical support to agencies that offer counseling services for homeless. Develop guidelines to evaluate outcomes and ensure that the greatest number of homeless individuals and families are served. Provide disaster preparedness education, training, and volunteer opportunities to help communities in the event of a disaster. Redefine homelessness in the region and promote at the state and federal level. Does anybody have any suggestions, changes? Yes.
Just again, the very last one, the more we can keep
challenging HUD on their definition of homelessness. We don't have homelessness like other cities do, consequently we never qualify for funding for homelessness. Speaking out of culture, my observation was the Hispanic culture, does not want relatives living on the streets, like I have seen in large cities across the United States. So, to me, there is a sense of homelessness if you've got 3 generations living in a very tiny space, and each maybe 3 or 4 families, and you know they need to consider that that's a type of homelessness as well. So we can get more funding for housing. The other issue that's really upon us now and one of mystery is the very first one, emergency shelter for children, and this comes also along with immigration, not just shelters for teen moms, but like right now we have a big problem, right? We have 1,200 children at any one time here in the valley who are unaccompanied from Central America. And not only those children, but children in our own communities who are suffering. We had a meeting with pediatricians in February, and children in our own communities, in Brownsville especially, and in Hidalgo, are being traumatized by the violence that's happening in Mexico. They need a safe place to go where they can feel safe, and I think that's something our community needs to do.
Thank you, Ann. Yes, sir.
Just to piggyback off what she was saying, is I just recently came back from the Texas Homeless Network Conference in Austin, and major funding has been going to a lot of the bigger cities, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, because of the fact that we don't have the homeless population as what they do. But I do think that some of the programs that they highlighted in the conference could benefit our population here in the valley, especially the small population of homeless that we do have. So maybe even tapping into the Texas Homeless Network could be a really good strategy. And other agencies that are involved with the Texas Homeless Network.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, and the last goal on, yes, I'm sorry.
I think somehow we need to establish, because, as was said before, 2 families, 3 families, 4 families, 5 families, how many families can actually live under a roof? And I think, a lot of people up north don't understand what's happening down here, and so consequently, we don't qualify for a lot of these funds. So maybe we need to set a strategy, when there's more than 2 families in a roof and an occupation of X number of square feet, maybe something needs to be done, because in reality, we're beating ourselves up against the wall if we don't establish some kind of strategy. How we're going to help these people, because these people do need help.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, the final goal on the list is to promote fair housing. The objective is to ensure fair housing for all residents of the Lower Rio Grande Valley. Strategies listed are to distribute printed material at housing events to promote public awareness of fair housing, Attend fair housing meetings to increase knowledge of fair housing trends in order to effectively continue to work with other entities to address ongoing issues and improve quality of life for residents. To adopt a resolution that supports testing in the region and require local jurisdictions to pass similar resolutions. To participate in any testing recommended or implemented by other organizations such as state and local communities. To work with local and regional groups, the state and HUD to create the testing. To seek out additional funding sources and avenues that would allow for annual testing at the regional level. Any changes, suggestions, comments?
I was going to say that one of the best ways to, I think, to attack this goal would be to get everybody to the table. Rio Grande Valley has a unique situation where there's over 20 housing authorities and over 70 lower rental income properties. That's very unique to the state of Texas, compared to like in Dallas where they only have 1 housing authority. And I think that bringing these people to the table to find out how many of their actual housing units they have are set aside for individuals, elderly or disabled. We could bring more awareness as to what the lack of areas, as well as the lower income properties. These properties are required to have a certain amount percentage of their property to be lower income housing for elderly and disabled. And through my research, I've noticed that we don't follow those guidelines, and there's no available and accountable as to what other cities and other regions do not hold them accountable.
Thank you. And that concludes housing and shelter goals and strategies. Thank you all for your feedback.
Is there any other questions, additions? Like I said, I want to remind you once again, August the 6th is another session that will take place where everyone, all the departments will be available. We also have the strategic plan on our website. We have forms that you can submit them in writing. If you didn't think about it right now and think about it later, please do so. And like I said again, this is you all's plan, the region's plan. This plan is used for a lot of, mainly when people are submitting, requesting for funding. If it's addressed in this regional plan, it has more, I think, more strength than on what is needed and what is actually needed here in the region. So it's very important that everybody list their priorities and their goals and strategic strategies in this plan. I'd like to thank everyone for for coming, and there's another session this afternoon. I think it starts at 1, and that includes
MPO and.
it's transportation and MPL. Thank you again.